Hello, today is Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. If your parents are part of the email chain, they were able to show you the morning message that I encourage you to rewrite correctly and then check it with the key that I also sent in that email. So we're just going to start today. Today's a math day. We're going to do a little mini lesson with two different standards, and we're really going to focus today on interpreting data. We're going to be making a bar graph, and then we're going to solve some problems with the bar graph. So that's what we were working on before we left for spring break, and we're just going to do a quick little mini lesson to review that skill. So today we're just going to go ahead and start with what we're going to know by the end of today. Today we are going to focus on just some adding and subtracting, some fluency at the very end of the video. So our first know for the day is I will add and subtract within 100, so we're only going to be dealing with 3-digit numbers to solve contextual problems. So the reason I underlined solve contextual is because that means the word problems. The problems that I've created are not word problems, but what I'm going to ask you to do when we get to that part of the video is to make word problems using the numbers that I've given to you in equations. So today, with me, you're going to add and subtract within 100, but then your task is to create, really, contextual problems. Okay, and then the first part of our video is going to be with bar graphs. So I will draw a graph. We're going to make a bar graph to represent a data set. And we've talked a lot about the word data set, and the data set is just the information that you gather from taking a survey. And I think you're going to like the information that we're going to be representing today. After we make the bar graph, or we represent the data with a bar graph, we're going to solve problems using the data in the bar graph. And we know when we solve those problems, we're going to be underlining important words, and we're going to be making our equations. In our classroom, we do the boxes underneath each category in the data set. So we're going to be solving some of those with addition and subtraction today. We're just going to be using that data in the bar graph to solve problems. So we're going to go ahead and start. Here's our data set. We have the title of our data. Go ahead and read what the title is. Rolls of toilet paper. Hopefully you have plenty of toilet paper at your house, whether you need it or not, but we know everyone wants toilet paper, so I thought it would be fun to have a survey of how many rolls of toilet paper people have at their house. So our categories are going to be Jeremy, Layla, Jose, and Sally. You can see that we have used tally marks to represent the number of rolls of toilet paper that they have at their house. So what I want you to do is pause the video and tell the people around you, tell yourself, write it down. How many rolls does Jeremy have? Write the digit. Layla, Jose, and Sally. Go ahead and do that. So I've gone ahead and I've done Jeremy and Sally, but before I do Layla and Jose, I'm noticing that when I do Jeremy and when I counted up my total for Sally, I didn't have any of these diagonal lines. So I want you to tell the people around you, explain to your parents, you could say it out loud, explain why I'm going to have to switch the way that I'm counting when I count Layla and Jose. So if you said that we have to use skip counting by fives right here, you were correct. We know that the biggest difference we can see with Jeremy and Layla, Jeremy had 4. He does not have a diagonal line. When we make tally marks, we do 4 straights, and then on the 5th line, we put our diagonal line. This lets me know I do not have to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead, I can just skip count. So we'll skip count together to determine how many rolls Layla has. 5, 10, 11. Very good. I'm not going to continue to count by fives because this only represents 1. So Layla has 5, 10, 11 rolls. You can determine Jose's. Very good. Jose has 7. We can count 5, 6, 7. Now, here comes the first part of our task today, which was to represent data using a bar graph. I want you on a sheet of paper or just scratch sheet of paper, anything, draw a bar graph to represent the data. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what a good starting place is if you've never had to draw one completely by yourself. Usually in our classroom, we provide you the graph and then you just do the bars and labeling. But this is a good way to just go ahead and start. So if you can see, all I did was I kind of drew on the sides of my notebook paper like a big L, just like this. So that on this side right here, you can see I counted from 1 all the way up to 15. And then at the bottom, I have my spots for my categories. And at the very top, I have rolls of toilet paper, my title. So what I need you to do is go ahead and you can make this if you want to pause it on my screen so you can copy this. But after you make kind of the skeleton of your bar graph, I want you to represent our data from the table using the bar graph. That might take you a couple minutes, so pause the video and make sure you make yours before you see my completed one. The next step, I wrote their names, Jeremy, Layla, Jose, and Sally. Now I will just have to create my bar graph. I'll do Jeremy's with you so you can see. If you aren't remembering how we did this in the classroom, you can watch me do Jeremy and then you'll finish Layla and Jose by yourself. So before I can create the bar to represent how many rolls of toilet paper Jeremy has at his house, I have to go back and check how many did he have at his house. When I look at my data, I can see, okay, Jeremy only had 4 rolls. So I'm going to get mine and I'm going to draw a rectangle showing that Jeremy has 4. You can color it in or you can leave it blank. Sometimes to save time, which I don't think you're going to need to save time, we've got plenty of it, I just draw lines in mine like this rather than coloring it. So it adds just a little bit more dimension and it's easier to see. So you could do that, you could color it, or you could leave it blank, your choice. But you're going to draw a bar graph to continue representing the rolls of toilet paper that Layla has, Jose has, and Sally has. So go ahead and pause the video and start that portion. Okay, so hopefully yours kind of looks similar to mine. I used just intervals of 1 on the side because we didn't have that many. Our data set wasn't really a high number, but if I had like 100 or 50, then I might skip count by 10s, leaving little spaces in between. But for right now, my intervals are just of 1. So we can see that I've represented Layla, Jose, and Sally. Make sure that your bar graph, you always leave those spaces. If you are someone that did your bars going in a row, that's always fine too, whichever way you choose to make it. An extra challenge, you could make a picture graph. After we complete this lesson on your time, you could make a picture graph and use rolls of toilet paper to represent the data. That could work too. So now we're going to start answering some questions using our graph. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at our questions. And I made a mistake, so ignore my scribbles. My first question that we're going to focus on is who has the most toilet paper? And after I read the second question, I'm going to pause it and let you determine who has the most toilet paper and who has the least toilet paper. So go ahead and tell someone, write it down on the back of your graph, write who has the most toilet paper, put their name, you can use a complete sentence, and go ahead and determine who has the least toilet paper. So go ahead and check your work. I answered number 1 by saying Layla has the most toilet paper. We know that Layla had 11 rolls. Who had the least toilet paper? We know that Sally had the least, and she only had 3 rolls of toilet paper. Now, those are our easier questions. We can determine those by just finding the greatest and the least number. But now when we look down here, these are the questions that we really worked on a lot in the classroom. And I really want you to continue to use that strategy of underlining your keywords and making sure to put boxes underneath each category name so you can write the amount of that category. So I'm going to really model strongly on number 3, and I want you to work with me on number 3. But when we get to 4 and 5, I'm going to have you pause the video and do those ones by yourself. So let's start by reading our question. I'm going to read it all the way through, and then we'll go ahead and we'll annotate our question. How many more rolls does Layla have than Jose? So we know one thing that we are so good at in our classroom is identifying how many more. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to underline how many more. because I know that that means I'm trying to find the difference between two categories. And we know that difference means subtraction. So I'm going to put, just like we did in the classroom, I'm going to put my subtraction symbol and circle it above because I know that my final operation will be subtraction to determine the difference between Layla and Jose. So this is where I'm going to need my boxes. I'm going to put a box under Layla because she is a category. And I'm going to put a box under Jose because he is also one of my categories. I'm finding the difference between how many rows Layla has and how many rows Jose has. And we know that difference means subtraction. So I'm going to start by putting my box under Layla. I know she has 11. And I know that Jose has, I don't know how many Jose has. Jose has 7 rows. So now when I look at my question here that I've annotated, I can see 11 minus 7. That's going to tell me the difference in the number of rows. So one strategy that I use, I'm going to bump 7 and count up to 11. So I'm going to say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The difference is 4. Layla has four more rolls of toilet paper than Jose. So I'm going to write that in a complete sentence. I want you to do, while I'm writing that in a complete sentence, my answer, I want you to try 4 and 5. 5 is a brain stretcher. This is one where you are really going to have to annotate, and you'll notice I see Layla and Jose. So I'm going to have to put my symbol for and so I can make sure that I do each step of the problem. So while I'm writing my complete sentence, I want you to use your bar graph to determine how many fewer roles does Jeremy have than Jose. And then you're going to do the brain stretcher. How many more roles do Layla and Jose have than Sally? So go ahead and pause it right here so you can see the questions while you're working. Okay, so I went ahead and wrote my complete sentence. Layla has 4 more than Jose. And then down here, number 4, I want you to check your work along with mine, making any corrections that are needed. How many fewer? So I still underline this because I know I'm finding the difference between two categories. So I put my subtraction symbol and circled it so I can remember my final function will be subtraction, or operation will be subtraction. How many fewer roles does Jeremy, I put a box underneath Jeremy so I could remember Jeremy has 4, have than Jose? Then I put a 7 because Jose had 7 rolls of toilet paper. Now, if you'll look at my number sentence, I wasn't able to do it like I did Layla. With Layla, I didn't have to rearrange my number sentence because I was finding how many more, and my equation started with the largest number. But down here, I'm finding how many fewer. So my equation doesn't start with the largest number. So I had to rethink that. I had to say 7 minus 4, 7 for Jose, 4 for Jeremy equals 3. Jeremy has 3 fewer roles. On the very last one, this was the brain stretcher. Let's start with how I annotated. I underlined how many more, circled by subtraction. That lets me know I'm finding a difference. Difference means subtraction. So I see how many more roles do Layla and Jose. So I have to find together, and is my keyword. And I know when I'm putting things together, I'm adding. How many do both of them have together more than Sally? So I only had to put one box underneath Sally because that's my one category. It's just Sally. So I said I put my 3. But right here is where I really want you to focus. I said Layla. I put a box underneath Layla and put 11 because that's how many roles she has. And then I put a plus under my and Jose's. I had to add them to find the total sum or number of roles they have together. 11 plus 7, 18. So now when I think about my new equation, I'm going to say at the very end, 18 minus 3 is 15. So I would say Layla and Jose have 15 more rolls of toilet paper than Sally. So that kind of completes the graphing portion of our lesson. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is before you move to fluency, go ahead and pause the video right now, and I want you to make a picture graph representing the same data set. So you're still going to use this data set right here to make a picture graph. So instead of using our bars, you would put your little key and you could say that one circle stands for one roll of toilet paper, or you can make it harder and say that one roll stands for two rolls. So just however you want, but I do want you to pause and make a picture graph before we move to fluency. Okay, so on our first no for today, we said we were going to be adding within 100 to solve contextual problems. So I did say at the beginning of the video that the contextual part means word problems, and after you solve the equations that I'm giving you now, I want you to then turn them into word problems. So you're going to have to determine what keywords will let your solver know if it's addition or subtraction. So I want you to go ahead and you can pause it right here so you can see your equations and go ahead and solve those. So just take your time. You can use place value chart, arrow way, you can stack your numbers, you can make it 10, you can use compensation. You're picking your strategy to solve these. There's 6 problems. Let's see if you can do it in 5 minutes. Before I show you the key, I wanted to just review place value chart. I know that we've kind of moved away from that because most of us are able to stack our numbers using the standard algorithm that you see right here. But some of us, it's just good practice to use that place value chart. So I'm going to model how I would solve 19 plus 28 using the place value chart. On my place value chart, you can see I've already represented my first number. I have 1 10 and 9 ones, which represents 19. Now, I'm going to have to add place value chips because I am adding. When I add, I always start with my ones. So I'm going to start by adding 8 ones to my 1 column. Right here, you can see I've put them in rows of 5, so I can easily say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What I'm going to do, I'm going to automatically put my first 1 from my 8 ones and 28 to finish the 10. So I'm going to quickly add my 8 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you see mine, you'll see, once again, I put them in rows of 5 for easy counting. What do you notice about what I made? Tell the people around you what you noticed about what I made. I made a 10. That lets me know I have too many 10s, or I'm sorry, too many 1s in my 1 column. So I'm going to circle this group of 10s, cross it out, and I'm going to move it over here and turn it into a 10. Let me do this. There we go. Whoops. Okay. So you can see that when I added my 8 ones to my 9 ones right here, I had to bundle and make a 10. So what I do on one side, I'm also going to do on the other. I can see right here that I have 7 ones left. And I know that, whoops, 9 plus 8 is 17. So I'm going to add my 7. My 7 stays with my 1s. And just like I did, right here, I'm moving, I bundled and made a 10. So I have to represent that 10. So I'm going to add it to my 10s column right here. So a lot of the time when people help us, they'll say carry the 1. We know that it's really, we're not carrying it. We're not taking it anywhere. It's not a baby. We are bundling. We had to make a new 10. So that's why when I use my standard algorithm, my 1 is up there. So now I'm not done. I still have to add my 2 10s from 28. So I'm going to add my 2 10s, 1, 2, which leaves me with how many 10s? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can determine that my sum is 47, but what I do on one side, I also have to do on the other. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Very good. Now, we check addition with subtraction. Go ahead and pause the video and make sure we are correct. How would you check your work using subtraction? And moving on to subtraction, I once again modeled my largest number on the place value chart. You can see I have 108. I have no tens. So this already lets me know place value chart is going to be a great strategy because I am going to have to unbundle more than one time. So well, there's my dogs. I always start with my ones, and I can see right now I'm taking away 7. I can do that. I don't have to unbundle. So I'm going to go ahead and start by taking away 7 ones. I'm going to watch how easy it is now that they're in fives. Instead of saying 1, 2, I can just say 5, 6, 7, which leaves me with how many? 1. 1, 1. What I do on one side, I also do on the other. 8 minus 7 is 1. Now, I have to take a 10. I don't have any 10s. Tell the people around you what you're going to have to do. Unbundle! I'm going to come to my hundreds, and I have to take 100. How many 10s are in 100? 10. So I'm going to X out my 100, and I'm going to represent 10 10s. And when I do this, I'm still doing it in my groups of 5. Now we can see I have 5 10 10s. How many 10s am I taking? I'm only taking 1. So I'm going to take my 1 10, and that leaves me with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What I do on one side, I also have to do on the other. I unbundled my 100, which left me with none, and that became 10 10s. 10 minus 1 is 9. I want you to go ahead and check that using addition to make sure that 91 plus 7 is in fact 108, so we can make sure we got that correct. Okay, so I hope that you have done all of the quick fluency review that I posted. And remember, I'm going to be looking for pictures and emails from your parents that show me your word problems that you created. If it's easier for you, you can just type them into the comments. You could pick a couple and just type them into the comments. That's fine. But I am going to show you the key to the addition and subtraction fluency part. If you haven't done it yet, hit pause and don't look at the answers yet. This is where we're using our integrity. Remember, integrity means doing the right thing even when you think no one is watching. So I'm going to put the key up here. Make sure you check your work. If you already checked your work using subtraction or addition, the opposite function, you will see that you got it right. You didn't even need this, but just in case, you can see that I've put the sums and the differences for each one. Awesome. So we are finished with our little mini lesson for today. Tomorrow we'll probably do something, well, not tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a reading day. On Thursday, we'll do something very similar just to really get that extra practice. I encourage you to do your iReady lessons. I miss you. If you can see, I'm in a different location today. And you can see one of my best friends, she painted this picture of my dog for me a long time ago. So just a little more for you to see. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. I love you and miss you.